The Pentax DS is a DSLR released in 2004, based on the professional Pentax CCD platform. It features a 6-megapixel CCD sensor, metal chassis, and true pentaprism viewfinder. One of the main reasons the DS exists was price. At launch, it cost almost half as much as the D, about $900 compared to $1,700. And yes, the camera was simplified, which is obvious at first glance. At the time, reviews often compared the DS to the Canon 300D and 350D. Considering the price point, that made perfect sense. But if you really look at the specs, I think a more accurate comparison is the Nikon D50. These cameras actually have a lot in common. Even though the IZDS was marketed as budget camera, Pentax kept a true pentaprism viewfinder. Compared to the Nikon D50 or D70 with pentamirror viewfinders, the DS viewfinder is brighter and larger. Manual focus is noticeably easier and more comfortable. What's interesting is that Pentax worked so thoroughly on the DS that it's hard to say they were simply cutting cost compared to the D. They clearly rotate many decision choices. In some ways, the DS feels more refined and better balanced than the flagship model. Ergonomics are noticeably better, the grip feels more secure and the buttons and control valve are placed perfectly for your thumb. Overall, the camera is simply easier and more enjoyable to operate. The rear LCD was upgraded as well, larger in size and higher in resolution. The menu system was completely redesigned. It's cleaner, more organized and actually makes sense. The tab-based layout is a huge improvement over the messy menu on the D. For the first time in a Pentax DSLR, we get a quick menu, accessible via the FM button. From here you can adjust ISO, white balance, drive mode and flash setting. Fast and intuitive. With a firmware update, the camera also gained after ISO, which was a big deal at the time. Another minor upgrade was the switch to SD memory cards, and later, with firmware updates, SDHC support that opened the door to much larger cards. I personally use a 32GB card without any issues. The top LCD informational panel is larger, but it does lose its backlight, which is a bit disappointing. To check the firmware version, hold the menu button while turning the camera on. The version appears on screen. Mine is 2.02. Burst shooting is definitely not this camera's strong point. A crazy almost 3 frames per second won't turn you into a photojournalist. Okay, even at 3 fps you can capture something dynamic, but only for a very short time. The buffer fills up much faster than you'd like. You get just 5 raw frames or 8 JPEGs before the camera slows down dramatically. After that, it drops to about 1 frame per second. The buffer simply can't clear the image to the memory cards fast enough. Now let's talk about the sensor. The 6-megapixel Sony CCD sensor ICX430 and its close relative ICX453 was extremely popular at that time. Legendary cameras like the Minolta 7D and iconic Epson RD1 and several Nikon models use essentially the same sensor. Each manufacturer tuned the colors differently, but they all shared a common look: warm yellows and strong greens. This came from using film as a color reference, making the transition from film to digital film more natural. High ISO performance was impressive for its time. ISO 800 looks genuinely good, and even ISO 1600 is still usable. Interestingly, the next generation of 10 megapixel CCD sensor often performed worse at high ISO. After ISO also help by letting the camera choices sensitivity for you, making shooting more relaxed and intuitive. The Pentax came out on IZDS has some limitations. It's slightly simplified, with two power contacts removed. Because of that, autofocus does not work with SDM lens that have a built-in motor. You also lose power zoom functionality on lenses that support it. The IZDS continues Pentax's tradition of using 4 AA batteries. This has some clear advantages, mainly availability. AA batteries are easy to find anywhere. However, nickel magni hydride rechargeable batteries come with a serious downside: voltage. They output 1.2 volts instead of 1.5 volts. The camera needs a full 6 volt to operate properly, and 4 nickel magni hydride batteries barely reach that then full charge. After just a few shots the voltage drops slightly, and the camera already thinks the batteries are dead. And yes, that's pretty annoying. Today the market offers two popular workarounds: lithium-ion AA batteries with USB charge and CRV-free lithium-ion batteries. From my own experience, CRV-free batteries work great in both the IZD and the IZDS. Other options give me problems. Most of my shots were taken using the center IF point, and the majority of them were in focus. On the IZDS it feels slightly slower and less confident than on the IZD. It's noticeable, but not a deal breaker. It just needs a bit more light. Your results may vary depending on your lenses and shooting conditions. Just remember, front or back focus isn't really a lens problem, it's limitation of the IF system itself. Modern mirror lens cameras don't suffer from these issues. Unfortunately, there is no IF micro adjustment. With certain lenses, focus errors can be obvious both in the viewfinder and in the final image. The camera may focus slightly in front of or behind the subject. In my case, this happens at the medium distance, about 2-5 meters, with the 35 limited lens. Pair this camera with the Pentax limited primes and the whole system really starts to shine. In my humble opinion, JPEG is not Pentax's strongest format. To put it mildly, RAW, on the other hand, is quietly flexible and forgiving. It allows you to correct exposure errors, which do happen, and sometimes they're significant. Lightroom and Capture One have no problem reading files from the old IZDS. Despite its age, the Pentax IZDS can still create a kind of magic. Some people call it CCD magic, others say it's Pentax color science. But here's how I see it. If you're tired of modern cameras, if you're not in a rush, And if you want to add more color to a gray and gloomy world, the IZDS has something special to offer. The ergonomics and menus never get in your way. This camera pulls you into the process of photography. You can just crank ISO to 12,800 and spray 15 frames per second hoping for a hit. Every shot takes time, every shot is a process. This is not a camera that helps you shoot more photos, it's help you care about every single one.